Welcome to the former Oakland Great Hall of Fame, brought to you by Chris Martinez, State Farm Insurance. Like a good neighbor, Chris Martinez there.
Congratulations,
Insurances. Congratulations, Chris Martinez. But we're here to celebrate the former Oakland greatness, Mark David Canha, 2015 to 2021. Starling Javier Marte.
I can feel the intenseness because you're so close to your microphone. It's great.
It's something new here. July 2021.
You are blowing out your levels a little bit, though.
To September of 2021.
Well, don't get that far away. Sorry, keep going.
Jan Gomes. Too cool for a middle name. July of 2021 to September 2021.
Wow, he doesn't have a middle name, huh?
Yeah, I was surprised Starling had a middle name, but Ryan Christensen, 2013 to 2021.
Does Ryan Christensen not have a middle name, or you just he's not famous enough to have enough info on Wikipedia?
I'm sorry. Ryan Allen Christensen.
Yeah, he looks like an Allen. He's got Allen written all over his fucking face.
Yeah. I forgot. I didn't realize he was with the A's like in 98. It's like, wow, this dude was like playing with Giambi back in the day.
Whoa,
that's cool.
Really? That's news to me.
Remember when we figured out how old Jason Giambi was the last episode and just blew all of our minds?
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, folks, welcome to the Town Tailgate. It's been a few weeks.
Oh, is that it? Is that the
your
do they get a free gift card to Los
gift
Tres
card?
Amigos?
Sure. I was trying to think of the name of that deli in Orinda. It's really bomb.
I feel like we can't offer gift cards to places that we don't have any authority to, because what if they actually what if just for some reason they won't, but what if for some reason they listen and they show up to that place, it's like, hey, Julio and Chris from the Town Tailgate offered me a free gift card. Where's this shit? Whereas if they showed up to your parents' place, they would text you and you'd be like, I mean, come on, just give them a gift card. And then
what's going to happen
is give them one.
They'll show up to Casper's and they'll be like, oh, we fucking love those guys. We got you.
I don't know if they have enough clout at Casper's. Anyway, yeah, like Julio said,
Mike Casper, great friend of mine.
Welcome to Town Tailgate Podcast. That's Julio. I'm Chris. Second off-season pod of the off-season. But this is going to be the first off-season overview pod that we've done. There's been some moves made, some signings and a couple trades. But the main big story is we could be in for a longer off-season than expected, which we will get into that right now. We should just get into it now. Yeah. If you have not heard, ladies and gentlemen, the MLB owners have put in for a work stoppage. The collective bargaining agreement is expiring this offseason. That needs to be renegotiated with the players union in order to resume play. The MLB owners have decided to make the first move. They have declared a work stoppage and a strike. They are in the negotiation period right now. They have met a few times so far, and so far nothing even close to an agreement has happened. Julio, when you found out that the owners started the strike, what was your first thoughts?
No way. Wow. The owners, the ones that did it. This should go for not just with baseball unions, just any union. Most of the time, about 95% of the time, it's going to be beneficial for the workers when these things happen.
Yeah.
And even if you may think that, cool, Max Scherzer making $40 million a year, he makes all the money in the world. He said multiple times, because he's actually one of the lead guys who's a part of the CBA, was saying like, I want to make sure the young guys are getting paid. So that being said, yeah, there's no shock. I think we all knew this was happening, Chris. We've been talking about this since the first time we recorded this podcast, like last July. So there's no surprises there. It's just, I don't think there's going to be any indication to like it going into the season. Maybe we lose like the first month or few weeks this season, but I don't think there's going to be anything drastic with it. Do you?
I mean, I think my main question was, were you surprised that it was the owners that began the strike as opposed to
no,
the
not at all.
players? It sounds like they're trying to make the first move and trying to get out in front of the public eye. But I mean, I think the public is just so like obviously knows that they're full of shit. Where I don't see how that would be a good move. Max Scherzer is an association rep. He's one of the key people in the association, along with Elvis Andrews, the Oakland A's own Elvis Andrews, Andrew Miller, and Daniel Murphy. So for those of you who, yeah. So
I made the joke
when Scherzer says something in the public, it means something because it means it reflects what the players union is thinking. What were you saying?
I made the joke. I was on a Twitter Spaces with the Locked On Angels. I wish I could remember that host's name. And then with John from Super Halo Bros.
Yeah.
And I was just joking, like, imagine having to negotiate and Max Scherzer's across the table from you. Just dead ass look, staring you down.
And a brown eye.
Yeah. Like, don't think that's, yeah, it's going to be intimidating.
No, I mean, we knew that there was going to be a strike. We knew there was going to be a work stoppage. The question is, how long is this work stoppage going to be? The interesting thing about it was like free agency really started to kind of kick off for about a week. We had a few big signings, which we'll get into in a little bit. And then instantly just boom, stop, strike. Because you can't negotiate during a strike. So there's a lot of people who are currently out of work. Max Scherzer was very obviously very strategic. He signed his deal before the strike happened, but I don't know. There's a lot of work that needs to be done with this league. There's a reason why it's the third most popular. The fourth most popular sport. I would say college football is bigger than baseball these days. And, it's probably at almost the same level as hockey. Cause like, I feel like hockey's kind of a hipster sport these days too. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Their popularity has completely just plummeted in the past 10 years. It's especially among young people, but that's a different reason. That's Major League Baseball not doing, much to try and grow the sport in inner city. But I mean, the pace of the play, I guess there's a handful of issues, and I think the players have a lot of good ways to solve that, but it really needs to be a part of, they really need to think hard about these negotiations. I could go on and on and on about things that could help it. I mean, a playoff expansion would probably help a lot. Universal DH would probably help a lot. Get a more hitter friendly league for National League too. But I mean, I don't know. This one could be a long one, folks.
Now, two of the main things that have been the cogs in this whole negotiation process is they're trying to reduce the eligible arbitration years for players. Case in point. So right now, after your third year in the majors, you are eligible for arbitration, which means you're pretty much at the point like, hey, I like to have my contract reevaluated for the remaining years of my contract kind of thing. And you go against it, you win or lose it. They're trying to reduce it from 3 years to 2 years. And owners are really sticking hard to no, that's not going to happen. Another big thing that's been going on that Max Scherzer was saying during his interview was that like the competition imbalance in baseball is just getting out of hand. In other words, John Fisher, you shouldn't be spending $40 million on your payroll when it comes to opening day. And that's why one of the big things has been trying to fight is just a spending minimum. We've talked about that over the summer as well.
It's a cap floor. They want a salary cap floor, not a salary cap ceiling, but a salary cap floor. Otherwise, you get taxed up the ass. The organization gets taxed up the ass if they don't spend the minimum amount, which is, the rumor is around $100 million is what they're aiming for. So
this just kind of leads up to like a question I've kind of wanted to ask you from the get-go and kind of why we have this at the leadoff position in terms of, talking baseball. How does this affect the A's? What do you think is going to come out of it could be beneficial for the A's, that could hurt them, like off the top of your head?
Well, I think it was very strategic of them not to trade Chapman, Olsen, Mania, Bassett, any of those guys yet. It was pretty obvious because they want to see how these negotiations pan out. Because if there is a cap floor, if there is a salary floor, then those guys are extremely valuable now because then you can extend these contracts in order to hit that floor. They're pretty far out of that floor right now. They'd have to spend quite a bit of money in order to get that. So knowing the Oakland A's, they're not going to be very desirable to free agents. I mean, that's just kind of like common sense because of the way that they just the rumors around the way they treat their players around the league. But, you know, they could definitely convince people like Matt Olson, who's said that he wants to stay in Oakland, to sign a 6-year, $100 million contract or something like that. It gets them up $20 million more on their yearly salary. They could extend Sean Murphy to like an early extension. It just there's moves to be made. If they had traded it before, they could have been just really fucked with just standing there with nothing but their dick in their hand. You know what I mean? Like it's very telling. It's going to completely change everything that their front office does. So it's going to be for the better for A's fans out there. I'm not promising the world, but it will be a little bit better. Because we might see guys like, for example, like I just talking about Matt Olson, who might stay for a little bit longer than their rookie contract because they have to spend the money. Like it's just the rule. One thing that I found really interesting on what you just said was oh my God, I'm totally blanking.
You got it, buddy. Come on, we believe in you.
You go ahead. I'll think of it after.
It is kind of a bummer in a way that there's some guys that we would have loved, especially seeing like Canna's and Marte's deals.
Yeah.
If that salary minimum would have kind of become a thing or the floor, both those guys were pretty achievable in terms of getting them paid, formidable payments.
Yeah.
Now there will be some options that are still available that would make sense at a decent price range if that becomes the new norm that you can fill out a roster with. So case in point, World Series hero. Oh my God, I just had his name in front of me. Jorge Soler.
Yeah.
Like that could be somebody that
he's going to get a big deal though. I don't know. I mean, maybe if they have to spend the money, maybe it's intriguing enough. Yeah. Who knows?
Andrew McCutchen.
Yeah.
Former MVP, Tommy Pham. There's definitely some serviceable guys that you can plug and play and give them, 2 years, 20 million or something like that. If you got to hit that bar. So who knows? I think we were all a little pessimistic before this deadline. And I think going into it, I don't think our opinions have really grown any more optimistic, but at least we can see there's like a tiny blip of light. There's a little blip of light, like, hey, maybe things aren't going to get blown up. And if it does, at least it's not going to get blown up until after the holidays.
Yeah.
Nothing will ruin my Christmas more than Christmas Eve seeing Madison getting traded to the Padres.
Yeah, that would fucking blow. I remember what I was going to say. So the arbitration thing that you were talking about. I don't get why arbitration exists. Like this is the fucking stupidest process when it comes to professional baseball negotiations. Like I love what the NBA does. You have a rookie contract, you're at a set scale, and then going into your final season of your rookie contract, if you hit certain milestones, you get a max deal. You get the super max, the Donovan Mitchell $120 million 4-year supermax, and you either sign them to that extension and the player has the option to either stay with that team and sign that extension or risk it, live out the last year in your rookie contract and then hit free agency. It's pretty risky. A lot of players don't do that because it's like, oh, you're giving me 120 to $150 million. I kind of have to take this. But I think it would further incentivize teams to pay players more because, like, for example, Matt Olson hits his rookie contract's up after 2023. So, let's say the team is like somewhat good and they see it and they're like, oh, we have this asset in Matt Olson. Like we should sign him to the Supermax and extend him. You don't know what the team's going to look like after that. So you could get some pieces and kind of like make a run. I don't know. It's just like I really like the NBA system. I don't understand why Major League Baseball has the system they have. And like they're paying these rookies, like obviously after arbitration and bonuses, they're getting paid a little bit more, but like their base salary is like $500,000 for the season. Like that's fucking insane to me. A lot of those players don't get that much money. Like Matt Chapman's base salary last year was $500,000, but then he went to arbitration. He won, so he made like, I don't know, like $8 million or something like that. I'm spitballing here. So if you're listening and you're like, no, he fucking made this much money, like I'm sorry, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, you nerds.
Yeah.
So who knows? We're in for a long off season. All I'm just going to say is I think these next couple of podcasts are going to be pretty interesting. Like, what the hell are we going to talk about? If there's off-season baseball talk, it's already hard enough.
Yeah.
What the hell are we going to talk about if there's no player movement going on? Maybe like, what's your
know. We'll just have
your
to
favorite
on the
Christmas pun? Yeah, we're just going to hand here and drink and just talk, folks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's all. You got anything else on this CBA? I think that's all I have. Really, it's just going to be a long, frustrating process. The one thing I'm curious
we'll try to keep you up to date as much as possible with the knowledge that we have, but like right now it's very in limbo.
The one thing I am curious about is the guys who didn't sign. So like Carlos Correa, Freddie Freeman, Clayton Kershaw, just a few guys off the head.
Yeah.
Will not signing beforehand benefit them? That's going to be what I'm the most curious about. It's like, okay, will that actually make a difference in the end?
That's a good point, but I don't know. The guys that I saw that signed, Javi Baez is kind of the only like youngster that like really jumps off the screen, and he's not that young anymore.
28, maybe 29, which is wild to think. Yeah. Damn, he was a kid when they won that World
Freddie's
Series.
good. Freddie, he's money wise. He's
Frederick.
Fine. He's okay. He's won arbitration several times. He's MVP candidate multiple times. This is his third contract anyway. It's not his rookie contract.
So this was probably his last big one.
Yeah, and then Kershaw is good. He's already made a fuck ton of money. And who was the other one you said?
Correa. It's going to be Yankees or
Correa is
Astros.
interesting because he is coming off his rookie deal, and
even though they were saying the last report before things shut down was like the other rumored teams interested were the Braves and the Dodgers, which would have been.
Yeah, but the Dodgers just signed Chris Taylor, so.
Yeah, I think that's I think
they kind of have the plan to put him at shortstop since they let Seager go.
Trey Turner. He's just going to slide over, and then Lux will become the full time.
Who would you rather have at second? Oh yeah, put Chris Taylor back out in the outfield. Yeah,
but the other rumor is like Freddie Freeman. It was supposedly talking with the Dodgers, so then you would just slide Max Muncy over second.
Mm-hmm.
But
not if there's a universal DH.
Even though Max Muncy's a hell underrated defender, though.
No, he is. Don't get me wrong. So I mean, then I guess you can rotate those guys, give him rest every once in a while. But he would probably be the main DH. Yeah. A lot to think about.
A lot of speculation.
All right, we're gonna talk about one quick thing, and then we'll have a break, and then we'll do some free agency talk. The manager search has begun for the A's. They have interviewed a handful of candidates. Wow.
I have the link in front of me. This is
Mark
according
Conte is
to
one of them. Sorry, but keep going.
Britt Grillo, who she is an MLB writer for The Athletic.
Yeah.
So in-house, we have Mark Conte, Marcus Jensen, who is the A's bullpen coach, and then Darren Bush. Outside of that, we also have Matt Quattaro. He is the third base coach for the Tampa Bay Rays. He's a coach in the Tampa Bay Rays organization. Joe Espada. He is currently a coach. Yeah, Espada.
I like that.
For Espada. He's currently a coach with the Astros. And then we also have probably the most intriguing person, Will Venable. You might remember him. He played with the Padres, Rangers, Dodgers. And then over the last few years, he was coaching over with the Cubs as well as the Red Sox. I think when I sent this link to you, your very first response was, "Where's Ron Washington?"
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. Like, if you're Billy Beane, why not at least just give him an interview? Like, what the fuck?
This is the weirdest managerial process I've seen. Not because it's just the A's doing it, but the Mets are also doing it. The Mets still haven't hired a manager.
Yeah.
I've never seen a team this far into the offseason not going into it with a manager. I think there was something like that happened in basketball, but that was also during like the shortened season with COVID. I forgot who was the one. I think Doc Rivers was like the one who went like super late into signing with Philly.
Well, he was. Oh, that's right. He did sign, huh? He was traded to the Clippers. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
But yeah, it's super interesting. Will Venable is the most intriguing to me because it sounds like this guy just really kind of blew up in terms of like the prospect of being a coach, from being in organizations for a few years to potentially interviewing for a managerial position.
He must be heavily involved in the analytics of that franchise. That's probably why. And we all know David Force and Billy Beane love, the numbers guys. And Ron Washington must be very anti sabermetrics and analytics. That's the only thing I can think of the reason why they wouldn't even, because he's a fan favorite. And you don't like, if you're going into a rebuild, who really cares who your manager is? Because if he doesn't do well, which he's not going to, you have every reason to fire him in 2 years. So like, why not give him a shot since he's a fan favorite? I don't understand that, but this is kind of what I said last podcast about the managerial search, or 2 podcasts ago. This is Mark Kotze's job, I feel like, to lose. Like, all signs are pointing that he's going to be the next manager.
The only reason I would think that Ron Washington wouldn't want this job is I don't think he just wants to be a manager. It's just like, dude, I just won a World Series. I got this super dope young core that I'm helping coach up in Atlanta. He obviously loves those guys and they love him. So he's got a really cushy job. So he's
always kind of claimed that he wants to be a manager again, though. And all reports from people like Jeff Passan kind of say that he does too.
But he wasn't even mentioned for the Mets job either. So that's why I'm like really confused.
I mean, yeah, that's weird. I don't know.
All I know is let's rate them. Who would be your top option? Who would be like your bottom option? And I think we both know who both of our bottom options going to be.
Yeah, Darren Bush is the bottom option. I can't even believe he got an interview. Then I don't know what the fuck they're doing over there. My number one option, I mean, I like Mark Kotze. I think he'd be perfect. He's just going to be Bo Mel 2.0, which is great. Works for me. The clubhouse likes him. He's a kind of grew up managerial wise throughout the organization. So I think he's the guy. The only reason why he stopped being the bench coach a few years ago and then moved to third base was because he had some issue with his daughter or something like that, or his wife had some like disease. I can't remember what it is. Cancer. I don't know if it's cancer or not, but he had to step away for a little bit. So yeah, otherwise he would have been the bench coach the past few years and probably would have got a managerial interview job somewhere.
I'd go.
Chip Hale would have been nice to see in there, though. Surprised I didn't interview him.
I think he's coaching over at U of A, right?
That's right. He just took that job. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Because the old U of A coach retired. I forgot about that. So he took that job. Good for him. That's a great program.
Oh yeah.
That's the
other name. I'm surprised
that's the cream of the crop baseball wise for the Pac-12. Well, that and Oregon State.
I was surprised that Matt Williams wasn't mentioned at all. I remember we talked about him a few months ago that he was let go of his contract in Korea. And I was like, oh, maybe he might get another chance, but I guess not. I'd go, Mark Kotze would probably be like the easiest transition.
Yeah.
Will it be the most successful? I don't know, but who knows with any of these guys. I really actually reading a little bit more about Matt Quattaro. Not your name, but like the guy was in Tampa for the last few years. He's been the bench coach. If there's anybody who knows analytics better than anybody, it's that organization. So it seems like that's going to be another easy transition. The Will Venable one really surprises me too. The fact that like nothing has really been mentioned about this guy. He's only been doing this for a couple of years. There's got to be something to it.
Yeah, I didn't even recognize his name. I had to like look him up.
I'm pretty sure. Is he old enough to be in? I was like, I felt like that was a name I saw in MVP baseball years ago, but no. And then yeah, Joe Espada, just because he was in Houston, he's probably learned a lot.
Yeah.
But and then Marcus Marcus is interesting. I think that if this was the end of last season, if this was going down, he'd be much higher. But just kind of, I don't know if this bullpen fiasco this past year was his fault or just the lack of talent and the arms falling apart. And it kind of reminds me of what the Raiders are going through with kind of like Mike Mayock. Like, oh, well, were you the one drafting these guys or was that Gruden? Okay, well, if that was Gruden, you're going to get one more shot kind of thing. So, but yeah, Darren Bush, just God awful. No. I just want to bring up, I forgot who said it on Twitter. They're like, if Darren Bush gets hired as a manager, I'm going to walk into the ocean with a pocket full of bricks.
That had me rolling, dude. Yeah. And, shout out to whoever that was on Twitter. That was hilarious.
Yeah. And that was out of this world analogy, but we'll see. Hopefully by the next time we record, we'll have this some kind of answer. Work on trying to get them on, but probably not. But before we go to break, there's actually a couple little mini things I want to bring about the stadium situation. And there's I don't know if I had a chance to share this to you yet, but
no, you didn't. Go ahead.
Dave Cavill was on the A's Access All Access podcast, and he was pretty much saying that the next step in the negotiation with the city is that they're moving into getting a binding agreement signed. And pretty much what that means is if you sign a binding agreement, that's pretty much like, yep, you can't break it. This is set in stone kind of thing. And that their goal was to get it done by the end of the year, but just how the way things fell, it didn't go out that way.
So does that mean like you could still negotiate the terms, but you're in agreement, like this is happening, like either way, if we don't agree on something, like,
and he said that the goal is to get it done the first quarter of next year.
Yeah.
On top of that,
it's pretty reasonable.
There was also, on top of that, there's also a audio clip that was going around from.
Can I say real quick before you do that? Just because this relates to what you just said. It's reasonable in an election year as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. This is getting way more political than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Great negotiation tactic by him to, obviously he wanted to make it work end of last year, but to make it happen at the beginning of an election year so that there's still time that if city council fucks this up, I shouldn't say it that way because the A's are not playing fair game either. But if the city council doesn't make this work, they're going to have to respond to their constituents come November when the election's online. Go ahead.
The other thing that there's a clip with the mayor of Vegas where it was like a Bloomberg, like a podcast where they're just talking about the state of sports and stadiums and all that, where she pretty much said, she's like, I don't want the A's to leave Oakland. Like almost word for word saying like, I don't want them to leave. Like pretty much saying like, yeah, we don't want a baseball team here.
Yeah.
I'll have to find the clip and send it to you at some point, which is like, I think the biggest thing that's happening over the last couple months is the tone, the like narrative, a lot of this stadium discussion has started to change a lot. And of course we're going to see all these, Debbie Downers, all these pessimistic people, all the SF media quotation marks kind of shooting it down. But the people who are doing their research, again, always shout out forever, Casey Pratt, like those guys they're kind of going through the mud and all the bullshit and they're finding the right information to show like this is getting a lot more traction than people think it's happening.
Yeah. I want to touch on that real quick, but I also want to say first, oh my God, why I keep blanking today. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that it's becoming more and more obvious the more and more we hear about it that this is clearly Major League Baseball's way of doing research for an expansion, to expand the league, but expansion in that city. It's not relocation research. It's just getting the A's to do the work for them, so that if when they do expand to 32 teams, they have the information and the numbers on what it would be like in Las Vegas. Casey Pratt and Marcus Thompson absolutely killing the game. I'm a little, to be honest with you, I have a little bit of a bone to pick with Danny Vietti recently of CBS Sports, because he's a local guy. He's from the Bay Area, so you think he would cover that very similar, where he wouldn't just report and tweet the negative stuff, but all he's been doing lately when it comes to the stadium stuff is tweeting negative stuff. Clearly he's trying to get some clicks or something like that. I don't know what it is. Obviously that gets a lot of attention on baseball social media, but obviously the national writers, Jeff Passan's only going to tweet something about that situation when it's negative, because it gets attention. But like, to see a local guy do that, I gotta say I'm pretty disappointed. Just want to throw that out there in ink on the internet.
And the last thing I got to say is I went to Vegas this last weekend. I only lost $70. I left with 200. It came back with 130. So I'm 200 cash. Yeah. So cool. Like I'm okay with that. But I went to a Raider game. Really fun atmosphere. It was just a really cool experience. That energy was pretty mild, pretty mid for what you think at expectations. Chris, you and I were at the Raider Charger game in LA, and I will tell you the energy in that stadium was like 5-10 times what it was in Vegas for a Raiders home game.
Yeah.
And you're seeing a lot of people kind of going at that environment, because it's like, you want to move another team over there, you're not going to get fans. You're just going to have all these out of towners.
Yeah.
Which is going to be true. And I think a big part of that argument too, to go for the Raiders, is like, that team's going to find their identity in the city. I think if you give them 3-5 years, I think the fans will start getting behind them. We'll see. But it just seems like putting a team in there that's already existed, that already has a pretty committed fan base, even if they don't show it in the stadium. It's just, everything just looks messy. The whole situation looks messy, but honestly, is there any other thing we'd expect out of Major League Baseball than messiness?
No. All right. On that note, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back. We're going to do our 3 best moves of the free agency offseason so far, and our 3 worst moves. So stick around. We'll be right back.